What crazy ass story do you need to tell? Late to the party, but when I was in high school and the few years after, my primary source of income was selling pot. One day I was just hanging out at home with the GF. We went to the Circle K a few houses down and got some beer. The clerk, who I knew pretty well at this point, asked if he knew where I could get a dub sack. I said sure, and that I'd be back soon. I go home and forget about it. An hour or two later I'm like, oh shit, remember, weigh it out and go back. He had already given me the money, very important detail for later, so I waited until he had no customers. He came out and we went around the icebox, just smoking and chatting. I handed him the bag. Now, there was no one around. Empty lot except for this beat up Volvo facing the record store next door. If I had been paying better attention, I may have noticed this Volvo had completely tinted windows, which seemed odd to do on a beat up Volvo. Two men get out of the car and approach us. One tall skinny guy wearing 100% denim and another guy who looks like Dog the Bounty Hunter in a beige sweater. They approach us and ask how we are doing. Me and Clark look at each other like, you know these guys? Then all of a sudden, the flash badges and yell PD. You're under arrest. And cuff us, separate us, and search us. Beige Dog goes through my texts, finds a couple dubious ones, a few crumpled up 20s, starts trying to get me to admit to doing a lot of business today blah blah. Then they surprise me by walking me and my GF back to my porch, saying they've seen me come and go quite a bit and just want to make sure you don't have a pound of heroin in there, and they'll just charge me with a misdemeanor. Otherwise, it will be jail and a felony. So here we are, on my front porch, me saying there's no way I will let them in my house and to call my lawyer over and over. At one point, my roommate walks out, says hi, gets in his car and leaves. At this point, Dog explains that if I don't let him search the house, he's going to park a few squad cars on the lawn, extract everyone from the house, and wait on a warrant, and they will charge everyone in the house with every little thing they find in any room. I now know this is not legal. Then, I was just scared. My roommate that had just left was a total nerd with a great job. Straight edge. Rarely drank and never smoked or anything at all. I was terrified of him losing his job. Unfortunately for me, I had just had an opportunity to get a quart of mushrooms at a steal of a deal. My area was super dried up on mushrooms at the time, so I asked around and basically had all my deals set before I got it. This timing was perfect, because just 30 feet away on the coffee table of my bedroom was 1/4 of a pound of mushrooms, neatly weighted out into ounces and 1/8. Top that with all the pot in there, it wasn't looking pretty. So, I proposed that I'll let one of them in, to search just my bedroom, and be done with it. I knew once I let them in they could do whatever, but I was out of options. Beige Dog agrees. Canadian Tux stays with my GF, who looks terrified like WTF are you doing at me, and Dog the Sweater Hunter enters with me. I lead him upstairs and walk right past my door, which thank God was closed, and into the straight edge guy's room. Dog completely turns it over, takes out drawers, turns the mattress over, the whole shebang. As he does this, I quietly turn off the computer monitor with a background of my roommate and his GF glaring on it. Guy finds nothing, sticks with his agreement and walks me and my shit-eating grin back downstairs. My GF, probably assuming I'm going to prison for many years, is looking like she's about to die, but I'm just grinning. Guy still freaking charged me with a felony. Then they leave. Long story short, paid a lot for a great atty who was friends with the prosecutor. Since no money was seen to be exchanged, the charge was knocked down to deliverance of marijuana. The prosecutor recommended the minimum sentence. I paid an $121 fine, did 80 hours of community center at a local music venue, saw a ton of shows for free, and retired from selling. God, I hope someone reads this. About 19 years ago, 3-year-old me, my mom and dad come home to find our cat Nubs is missing. The entire family turns the entire apartment upside down, but no trace of our cat is found. My mom decides to make missing flyers, even though all the doors/windows were locked at the time. Days turn into weeks, then into months. She finally comes to terms with the fact that her cat is gone and has disappeared. Cut to last year lol. My grandma out of the blue says she lost Nubs. She says while we were out shopping, she decided to go to the mall across the street and took my baby stroller to hold extra bags while she was in the middle of the mall. Nubs, unbeknownst to her, wakes up and jumps out of the bottom mesh pouch under the seat and takes off. My grandma, being too nervous and scared to ask for help, just leaves the store and our cat there. Cue us coming home like half an hour after she gets back home. She helped us look for this damn cat too, lol. It makes me hysterically emotional to think about what happened to my mom's favorite cat. This is the story of how our cat just one day out of the blue vanished into thin freaking air. Now we finally have the answer, lol. Many moons ago, I won a year's stay in the US with a Rotary Club to experience living in California. I ended up living in LA and was at school for a year. Nothing really exciting happened other than being in another country. Anyway, trip home. My parents decide they are coming over for 2 weeks to experience the place I lived in for a year. That's fine. At the airport I go looking for them before boarding the flight, and they aren't in the waiting area as I had gone to the toilet just before boarding. They went on the plane without me, having been used to their son not being at the house for a year. They also had my ticket and passport. So I, a 13-year-old boy, had to explain my parents forgot about me, took my passport and boarding pass, and are on the plane. They go ask the cabin crew and someone appears with my passport and boarding pass. I get on the plane to my seat beside my parents. I go, "The frick was that?" To which people in my immediate area burst out laughing. I later found out they had announced my predicament to the whole plane on the intercom, and my mother had put her hand up with my passport and boarding pass. This was summer between junior and senior year in college. So this one time I show up to a guy's parents' house to pick up a mutual friend. Turns out the guy who dealt weed to all of us was there too, and they were all stoned off their asses. Parents are nowhere to be found, but the house reeks of pot smoke. I had an internship that drug tested, so despite how much I wanted to smoke I couldn't. As the only sober person there, I'm trying to convince my friend to leave with me so we won't get in trouble. As we are getting close to leaving, the host's dog starts going nuts by the front hall bathroom. The dealer investigates and turns to inform us that there is in fact a possum in the bathroom. We all call bullshit, but as each person checks, there is sure enough a goddamn possum in the bathroom. The dealer comes up with the idea to use a broom to sweep the possum into the dog kennel. They were successful in this venture. Then came the inevitable question of now what? The obvious answer? They hotboxed a wild possum in the front hallway. I got my friend out shortly after. Less than a quarter hour later, the parents show up to a stoned, caged possum in their front hallway, surrounded by stoned 18 to 20-year-olds and their stoned son. They never did believe that the possum got in on its own, probably through the doggy door. My friend and I got away squeaky clean. My father used to live in Kazakhstan around 2006. One day he was with his work friend at a bar when this tall, built Russian man comes in. He decides he wants to sit in a bar stool close to my dad, but instead of finding a normal, empty stool, he goes to a chair occupied by a small woman and literally throws her off the chair, exclaiming that he wanted that chair. My dad sees this and immediately attempts to intervene by saying, "Hey man, what the frick are you doing?" The Russian man then proceeds to tell my dad, "I'm going to kick the shit out of you when you leave the bar, etc." My father brushes it off, but then he notices that the Russian man's friends have started to join them. About 4 large men inside and another 4 outside. At this point my dad is nervous and decides to call the head of security, HOS, for the company he works for. Keep in mind my dad was the managing director of Kazakhstan at the time. The HOS tells my dad wait at the bar for him to come, and after some tense drinking with the work buddy, 30-some bodyguards start pouring into the bar, making a line from my dad to the exit of the bar. Because of the country they are in, the bodyguards all have pistols on them as well. So the 30-something bodyguards have made a wall of people either side of my father. After the HOS takes him to his car, but there was an additional 2 black BMWs that were there to escort my dad home. Not the most insane story, but it was insane to hear my dad tell it to me. He also said the urge to flip off the big Russian guys was massive, but he didn't want to risk it. You have had an appointment with the soup doggo. It has made nice hot soup for you. Like and subscribe to show your appreciation of the soup.